Start game now. Welcome retro fans to another edition of the No Swear Gamer. Today I'm joined by Haunted House because we're going to take a look at a somewhat spooky game. That's right, today we're going to look at Dark Chambers for your Atari 7800 Pro system. Looking at the cover art, it's actually pretty good. Except for that guy's face. I really don't like the face. But other than that, you got a lot of action packed in here. Really actually shows a lot of what's going to happen in the game. Some of the enemies that you're going to face, as well as some of the treasure you're going to get and how it is a two-player game. Looking at the back, we have some fuzzy screenshots. Yep. One of the difficulties back in the day was they didn't have screen capture. So often they would just take screenshots with a Polaroid camera. And yeah, so these shots are a little bit fuzzy, but you have a nice description on the back. And so it looks like it's going to be a pretty good game, but let's go ahead, pop Dark Chambers into our Atari 7800 system and see if it's any good or not. Let's go to the game. Dark Chambers is for 1 or 2 players simultaneously, and it's an overhead action game very similar to the arcade classic Gauntlet. It came out in either 1988 or 1989. It has a copyright date in 1988. But there's a good chance it actually came out a year later, which sometimes happened to games during the 80s. It's based on a 1983 computer game, Dandy. Now, some people have claimed that Dark Chambers is a Gauntlet ripoff or a Gauntlet clone, but the truth is the game that's based on, Dandy, came out before Gauntlet and was actually the basis for Gauntlet. You see, someone who created the Gauntlet arcade game saw Dandy and decided to take the same idea, polish it up really good, and put it in the arcades, and that's how Gauntlet was born. So basically, Dandy is the prequel to Gauntlet. Yeah, it was a little bit of where one programmer kind of ripped off another fellow programmer's idea, but later on they kind of made up, so it's all good. The goal of the game is to go through 26 levels named after letters of the alphabet, letters A through Z. And once you get to Z, it just loops around back to the beginning at letter A and increases the difficulty, and you are collecting treasure in each of the level. Each level is a large maze. You cannot see the whole maze at once, but it does scroll with you, and they're not too difficult to figure out. You only have a single life, but you do have a generous life bar, and you can regenerate life with various food items found in the dungeons. And there are lots of different enemies in your way from getting your treasures, and they vary in amount of strength. Starting at the weakest and going to the strongest, you'll be facing zombies, skeletons, wraiths, wizards, and grim reapers. Now you do have some weapons to help you. You could shoot a projectile with the main fire button, but you're only allowed to shoot one at a time, and you have to wait until it disappears before you shoot another one. You do have auto fire, but as I said, even if you're holding the button down, you have to wait until it disappears. So if you're shooting something far away, it's going to take a lot longer. However, if you're shooting something up close like an enemy, you can get off several shots rather quickly. One interesting aspect of the game is the way that the enemies transform when you defeat them. If you are defeating a zombie, he will just poof, go away. But if you are facing anything stronger than a zombie, it will actually transform after you defeat it into the weaker guy below it. So for instance, let's take the Grim Reaper, the strongest guy in the game. Let's say you defeat him. Bam! He's instantly a wizard. Bam! And now a wraith. Bam! And now a skeleton. And finally a zombie, and you did it. So as you can see, it can take quite a while to defeat an enemy, and they keep coming at you as they transform. There are also spawners in various parts of various levels that continually spit out enemies at you. And just like the enemies, they vary in strength. So the strongest spawner will spit out Grim Reapers, and the weakest one will spit out zombies. And just like the enemies, you will have to keep on shooting it until it gets all the way down. So if you have a Grim Reaper spawner and you blow it up, it'll turn into a wizard spawner, and so on and so forth until you finally get down to the lowest level. There are also obstacles in this game, including traps, but your biggest obstacle is going to be doors. Just about every level has a door, sometimes hiding the exit to the next level or special items, and in order to get through the doors you will need keys that are also usually hidden in the level, usually at the very opposite side of the level. Once you get a key, you can hold on to it. You can actually store some keys if you find that you don't need to get to the doors. The game manual says you can hold up to 15 keys at a time, but I never had that many. I only had maybe 2 at the most. There are also various items throughout the levels, including some upgrades. If you touch a gun, you will be able to shoot faster in between shots. If you find a dagger, your projectile will strengthen in what the damage it can do, and if you find a shield, it'll increase your defense, so you'll be able to take more damage. There are also smart bombs you can collect, and pressing the secondary button uses a smart button, and it will blow up everything on the stage as far as enemies or spawners go, so it can be very useful. You can collect up to 15 at a time. There are also various treasures, including the most precious one, the golden chalice, as well as food that can help you regenerate strength. There's also a heart that's very interesting, where if you are playing a two-player game and one of the players does die, if you shoot the heart, you bring the other guy back to life. I thought that was very cool, but the heart, when you destroy it, will leave a portal in its path, a little ladder that enemies can come up and that you cannot destroy. I thought the graphics in this game were adequate at best. I did like the intro scene, but the graphics of the enemies themselves were nothing special. This is probably due to the fact that the enemies and everything on the screen is very small. Every character, every icon is pretty tiny in this game, so there's not really a lot of room to do stuff with the enemies. The sound in the music is also kind of okay. There is a little theme at the opening, but other than that, there's no music. The sound effects just did their job, nothing beyond that. It is a fairly family-friendly game. It might be a little spooky to some younger kids, but there is no blood, and when you defeat an enemy, they just poof away, and that is that. Now, it is a little bit collectible. It's a little bit of a rarer 7800 game. Loose copies, when I was checking today, go for about $10 to $15. And complete copies and new copies went for $20 to $25. So it didn't seem to matter to the buyers whether it was new or complete. They both went for about the same price. But the price really fluctuated a lot as time went on. So you can find it cheaper if you give it a little bit of time. So overall, what did I think? Well, I thought the control was okay in the game. Sometimes my character did get stuck in corners. Also, I found that the easy difficulty was way too easy. Usually in these games, I like to go to the easiest difficulty because I'm old and I don't want to waste my time trying to overcome a game that is just way too tough for me nowadays. But on the easy level, I actually went through all the levels A through Z without any problem at all. And the enemies didn't get really tough at all until around the letter R or S stages. So I would definitely recommend starting at either the standard or the advanced difficulty setting when it comes into that regard. But yeah, the controls were okay, but your guy moves really slow, and I mean really slow. I really wish there was a way you could speed him up, maybe find a pair of, shoes or something so he can walk faster. But other than that, yeah, sometimes it became really tedious. I would find the key, and then I'd have to go all the way to the other side of the maze, and even though I defeated all the enemies in between those two areas, it was just like a long little 60-second walk that just seemed to drag on and on. But there was some fun to be had in this game. There was some entertainment value as well. I do like the fact that you can get upgrades. Once you get them, they stick with you forever, so you don't have to worry about losing them. Of course, this is a single life game, but I didn't find that the single life got in the way. It actually made it a really good kind of a challenge. I do wish there was some bosses. This game just loops on endlessly from what I understand. So in a sense, it's kind of like a purgatory game for someone who was greedy during the lives, because you can go around catching treasures all you want, but eventually you will die. There is no end to Dark Chambers at the 7800. I thought it would have been cool if they did have a couple bosses or something of that nature. So would I recommend it? Well, kind of tepidly. If you are really into Gauntlet games, I'm not the biggest Gauntlet fan, so it may have something to do with it, but if you enjoy Gauntlet and want to see where it comes from, I don't know if this game is as good as Gauntlet, but I do think a Gauntlet fan should check it out. So where am I going to rank it? Well, I don't think anything's going to go above Ninja Golf anytime soon. Definitely not this game, but I do think it can compete with Rampage. So what it comes down to is just a theme. And basically with Rampage, I just have more fun being a monster and tearing down buildings than I did walking slowly through these dungeons. It can be fun, but I'm going to put it right behind Rampage at my number 3 spot. So there you go. Dark Chambers for the 7800. If you come across a copy, go ahead for a good price. Go ahead and pick it up, but don't expect anything too great. So that does it for today. Thanks for giving me a little part of your time. Don't forget you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Also, clicking the like and subscribe button is very encouraging to YouTubers like myself. And stay tuned, because coming up soon, I will do the 2600 version of Dark Chambers. And quite often, 7800 and 2600 games that share the same name can be very different when you play them. So I look forward to doing that one, and I look forward to seeing you too right here next time on the No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.